Welcome back. Washington Capitals fans were forced to endure several days of nervous what-ifs. But this weekend, a chance to exhale as the hometown team knocked off the Philadelphia Flyers 1-0 in Game 6, capturing Round 1 of the NHL playoffs 4-2. A very full sports page for you this Monday. Joining us now here with all of it, Tom Threlkeld, Editor-in-Chief of the DC Pro Sports Report. We've got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Josh Norman soon will be wearing burgundy and gold. The Nats, the best team in Major League Baseball, and a draft preview that we'll try to squeeze in at the end. But first and foremost, let's talk about the Capitals, who, of course, were up 3-0. They lost Game 4, lost Game 5, and all of us, I think, Tom, if we're honest, were wondering, is this thing going to slip away at a time when we've got high hopes for the 2015-2016 Caps?
Considering the history of the Washington Capitals in the playoffs, anyone who says that they weren't concerned is just lying. And, you know, the last time they had been the President's Trophy winner, that is the team with the best record in the playoffs, they went out in the first round. In that case, to the Canadians. Yeah, it was infamous, right. So, yeah, this was a big win for them. And really, there are three reasons they are moving on. And those three reasons are, number one, Braden Holtby. The goalie was just incredible. He stopped 97% of the shots on goal. That is just cuckoo bananas, I believe is the official term. And he gave up 5 goals in 6 games. He stopped all 39 shots against him in the third period of games. I mean, this is just really critical stuff. When you're as good as the Caps have been all season, the thing that you fear in the playoffs is running into a hot goaltender. Washington just happens to have the hottest goaltender in hockey, so that's good. They're going to need him in the next round. I can tell you that. The other reasons was, as I mentioned, the domination in the third period. They basically played the Flyers even in the first 2, but in that third period, they outscored them 7-1. With the only goal being an empty netter by Philadelphia. So that was critical. And the third one was special teams. I'm talking about the penalty kill and scoring. Washington scored 8 times on the penalty. They allowed only 1 penalty kill to fail. 23 out of 24 on the series. That 96%, I believe, that is fantastic.
I confess that I left the room during the game because the double minor to...
Yeah, when they were down 5-3.
Because he didn't do it.
Right.
But there was a stick to the face.
It was Backstrom. Backstrom, yeah, with the high stick, which wasn't a real high stick. That did not happen.
So there was, and it was to Ryan White, I think, their enforcer guy.
Right.
So he gets hit in the face by his own player's stick, draws blood, 4-minute power play with a subsequent penalty that I'm not sure was any better.
Yeah, and it was a 5-3 advantage for the Flyers.
5-on-3 for a prolonged time. So the two questions are, if hockey has replay, why wasn't replay deployed at that critical moment to see in real time that the penalty that the officials on the ice called was not what they thought it was, so they could make the right call, correct, pullbacks from out of the box, and have the game continue? And second, what did it mean for the Caps and the sense of momentum in the game that they killed that 5-on-3, given that they only got the 1 goal in the whole game?
That's right. I thought that was absolutely critical. I mean, the Caps had a 5-on-3 advantage themselves and did nothing with it, which is kind of deflating. And so here come the Flyers with it. On one penalty, which was, I mean, you can argue the other one, but one of these penalties is absolutely bogus. As you said, that was not Nicholas Backstrom's stick, and I don't understand how the referees missed it, and B, this is the whole point of having instant replay. And
unless there's some weird rule that I don't know about, where if you cause another player's stick to go into the face of a third player, I mean,
no, this was they just
because Barry Trotz and Captain Alex Ovechkin complained to the officials during the stoppage. They could have looked at the tape, seen what really happened, and corrected the call before anything else happened.
And it was a totally bogus call, and obviously it could have thrown the momentum. What if the Flyers scored during this phantom?
All those games were low scoring.
Exactly, this 5-on-3. And tie the game, maybe send it into an extra period or a shootout. This whole thing could have come down to a shootout, and then you go to a Game 7. Who the heck knows what happens there? So that was an absolutely critical mistake by the refs.
2 mistakes.
Right.
And they got the call wrong, and then they
didn't review it. And so it was, I mean, it was just kudos to Washington's penalty killing. that was fantastic all season long. Right. Holtby was terrific. And there were some nervous moments in that game, and that was one of them. But another one, in that first period, Michael Neuwirth, who's the former Capital, who's come back to torment the Caps in this series, he was terrific in that first period. 12 saves, and it looked like, gosh, here we go again. Neuwirth is going to blank him once more. They're not going to be able to do anything about it. But one of the things we saw in that Game 5 is even though the Caps lost it, they really outplayed Philadelphia in that game. I think they outshot them something like 45-11 or something. It was really remarkable. And so I think that the Capitals may have come into this game thinking the Flyers got lucky to win that one. We're the better team, which is true. They are the better team, have been the better team all season long. Whether they're better than their next opponent is another question.
I want to ask you about the Penguins, but for now, let's move on because time is limited and the sports page is full. Let's talk about the acquisition of Josh Norman. What do you think that means for Washington next year?
Well, it's huge. Norman is, by my lights, the best zone cover cornerback in football. Nobody should think he's like Darrelle Revis in his prime or Patrick Peterson right now. Peterson, for example, is a super athlete who can run man-on-man with anybody. Kind of like Darryl Green was, except he's a taller version of Darryl Green and almost as fast. Norman played mostly in zone defenses in Carolina. That is what he will play in Washington. One of the problems you frequently have, we've seen with cornerbacks who play one kind of defense in one place, they go somewhere else, and they're not the same player. The Eagles found this out with Nnamdi Asomugha when they were trying to build that great team in 2008, and it failed. He is actually going to a system which is not dissimilar from the one he's run now. He has prospered in before. It's a big signing. Norman is a large man. Physically, he's got good size. He's got good speed. He can run with pretty much anybody. Very physical corner. He has that, when the ball's in the air, it's my ball mentality that you see on the other side of the field with Deshaun Jackson, a guy who's very good at adjusting to the ball when it's in flight. And the other thing is, and the reason McLuhan liked him, Scott McLuhan, Washington's GM, liked him so much and jumped on this chance, is he's got attitude. McLuhan likes guys with attitude, guys who have a little bit nastiness in them. He likes guys because he thinks they not only help on game day, they help during practice because they sort of get under their teammates' skins and motivate them and so forth. And speaking of getting under skin, 2 games a year.
That's what I was going to say.
2 games a year with Beckham Jr.
4. There are going to be 4 games a year.
Bryant. Yeah. Right. I mean, another sort of twitchy wide receiver, a great wide receiver with a fiery personality. Absolutely. I suspect that Norman will soon have a history with Des Bryant. But these, I mean, Washington's going to need him right off the bat. Their first 3 games. First game, Pittsburgh, is against Antonio Brown, arguably the best wide receiver in football. Then they get Des Bryant and the Cowboys. And third, they go up to New Jersey and face Beckham and the Giants. So it's a murderer's row for him. He'll earn his money right away.
Do you put anything in the fact that the Panthers cut him loose? They've had the franchise tag on him. They rescinded it. Why? I mean, I know there are all these cap considerations, but he seems like such a special talent that you wouldn't let him go unless maybe they knew something.
I think
what do you make of that?
I think, for one thing, I think they sort of made a mistake. Really, I would have let him play under the cap the way that Washington is doing with Kirk Cousins, because you never know how long you have to win a championship. And the Carolina came very close last year, so I think they should have stuck with him. The larger reason, though, is after this season, they have a number of players, particularly on their defensive line, whose contracts will come up. And they've decided to prioritize those guys after Norman. A perfectly defensible position. Their general manager, Dave Gettleman, is a smart guy who knows what he's doing. And so,
arguably, it was the team around Norman that contributed to, not to say he's not.
Every cornerback, that's a fact. Every cornerback benefits from a strong pass rush. That's absolutely true. Washington does not have the pass rush that Carolina has, although the addition of Junior Gillette should really help them. It will also change Washington's draft strategy. I thought cornerback might be their first pick in the draft. Now it definitely will not be. They will most likely go for defensive line, and inside linebacker, safety, maybe center, and running back. Those will be the center of Washington's focus. Those are the areas where they need to address.
Let's talk about the Nationals. It has been a good first 3 weeks now. We know this thing is a marathon, not a sprint. But if you're a fan, if you are looking for signs that this season is going to be more like 12 than any of the last couple, reasons to feel really good about what Dusty Baker's squad is doing on the diamond this first 21 days or so of the year.
That's right. Bryce Harper, more heroics yesterday, that incredible pinch hit home run, and then Dusty Baker, the manager, pulls him out of the game. No one would have blamed him if he left if he left Bryce Harper in the game, but he promised Harper a day off. So he says, and apparently he told him before the game, I may need you as a pinch hitter. I want you to hit a home run and win the game. Well, he hit a home run and let the game continue. Harper's just unreal. He's leading the majors in home runs and RBI. He has as many home runs as strikeouts. That is absolutely insane. Daniel Murphy, the second baseman who they signed from the Mets, is leading majors in batting average. And they have now, as far as hitting goes, they're really average. Out of 30 teams, they're really I think their ranking is 16 in batting average. And they're about the middle in OPS and a lot of other, fancy figures I won't get into. But it's their pitching. They are the #1 team in pitching right now, right ahead of the Cubs, who are the second best pitching team. Washington's starting pitching has been terrific so far this year. The weakest starting pitcher has been Max Scherzer, who will go on the mound Tuesday in place of Joe Ross, who's tweaked his thumb when they play the Phillies. But it's really been the pitching, the great starting pitching, and pretty good bullpen work. Papelbon is tied for second in the majors in saves. And that's really, they're winning this thing on the mound. It does kind of look like 2012 to me, except 2012 combined with the single greatest baseball player on the planet, Bryce Harper.
What do you make of what Dusty Baker brings, or is it too early to say?
No, he's very relaxed. He's very laid back. They knew that. He sits there. Matt Williams was so tightly wound. You always thought he was going to fly apart at any moment. Baker stands there at the top of the dugout with a toothpick in his mouth, seemingly not having a care in the world. And I think that sending Harper back to the bench is a classic example of a guy who's like, this is a sprint. I'm not going to wear this guy out. They play 18 games, and he gives them a day off. Yeah. Whereas last year he played, I think, the first 48 games before getting a day off. Harper is very laid back, and everything he's doing so far is working.
We have about a minute left. Let's use it to talk about the draft, which starts Thursday and continues for, 17 days after that? Defensive line, inside linebacker, safety, center, running back, without getting too into it because we only have 60 ticks left. Are there players, and I know there are 4,273,000 or so mock draft scenarios out there.
And I've read most of them.
Are there a couple of players you're hoping for or thinking about?
I think that in the first round, if they fall to them, defensive linemen, both from Alabama, Ashawn Robinson and Jerron Reed, those would both be very solid picks at 21. If a wide receiver like Josh Doxson should fall, I think Washington would probably jump on him because after giving this contract to Josh Norman, I think that after next year, they cannot have both of these wide receivers back. I'm talking about Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. At least one of them will have to go. And it takes wide receivers a year or so to get into the league. Look for a trade down. Washington is the 21st pick in the draft. They have 8 selections in the 7 rounds. General Manager Scott McLuhan says he wants 12 picks. So don't be surprised if they trade down in the first round and maybe rounds after that. I think teams may want to move up to where Washington is. In case there's one of these quarterbacks, not one of the top 2 quarterbacks who will go first and second overall, are available. They want to get up and take someone like Paxton Lynch in the first round. So, Skins fans, watch out for a trade down.
That would be great. The more picks, the better.
Absolutely.
Given all we know about the draft. Tom Threlkeld of the DC Pro Sports Report on a jam-packed sports page. As always, thank you so much. We're back with more right after this.